Hello and welcome to Hacking Pixels. Hacking Pixels covers some of the hottest cybersecurity news from around the internet, along with a twist of retro video game nostalgia. Hacking Pixels is brought to you by Actionable Security, securing small businesses with actionable insights. Actionable Security specializes in cybersecurity services tailored for small businesses such as risk assessments, email hardening, virtual chief information security officer advisory, and a lot more. Go to actionablesec.com for more information. Welcome to episode 8. As always, I'm your host, Frank Morano, founder of Actionable Security. 8 is supposedly that magical number that helps a podcast gain traction, so we'll see if the Apple and Spotify analytics reflect this. As I said before, this podcast is really a fun way to keep up with the ever-changing threat landscape, as well as a nostalgic look at the video games of my youth, and maybe a little promotion for Actionable Security. Speaking of, here's a message from Actionable Security on our ongoing vCISO advisory services.
At Actionable Security, our virtual chief information security officer advisory is your all-star player at the top of the lineup, scanning the field, anticipating every pitch, and delivering cybersecurity home runs when it matters most. Expert cyber leadership without the full-time cost, we bring seasoned guidance that fits your business perfectly. Every engagement includes an annual cybersecurity risk assessment to pinpoint areas for improvement, helping you strengthen your program and score results fast. From spotting fastballs in the threat landscape to coaching your team on better defense, we turn cyber complexity into a clear winning game plan. We don't just fill a spot on the roster, we call the perfect play, rally your team, and shift the momentum in your favor. With us in your lineup, you'll stay ahead of every curveball and keep swinging with confidence. Step into the batter's box with Actionable Security and knock your next big security challenge out of the park.
Expert cyber leadership without the full-time cost. For a small business, it really doesn't make sense to hire a full-time CISO, but can you risk not having one? This is where our vCISO services come in. You get a person that is entrenched in the cybersecurity world with decades of experience that you could reach out to at any time. Every compromised customer record costs an average of $179, which could add up to millions. For less than that per day, we personally guide you through your network's shadowy corners, identify sneaky vulnerabilities, and serve up a crystal clear action plan that you could actually use. We have a lot more info on our website, so add actionablesec.com to your reading list today. Moving on, we are back to our regular format. So today we're going to be talking about MFA enforcement, protections against malicious URLs, and bypassing FIDO authentication, followed by our retro game of the month. So let's get started with the latest AI headlines. We are trying something new this episode. For the AI headlines part of the podcast, we're giving the spotlight to Google Notebook LM as part of an experiment to see how well AI talks AI news. For those unfamiliar with Google Notebook LM, it's a free AI-powered research and writing assistant. One of its features is to turn uploaded sources like websites or Google Docs into a podcast. So here we go.
This is the brief on the latest in artificial intelligence. Okay, so the AI landscape is evolving fast. We're seeing everything from new models and creative uses to serious cyber threats and vital efforts to keep AI safe. First, AI is being weaponized, posing big cyber risks. A tool called HepStrike AI, meant for security, is now used by criminals to exploit zero-day vulnerabilities, new, unpatched flaws, in under 10 minutes. Wow. Plus, schemes dubbed grokking use X's AI, Grok, to sneak malware past ad protections, hitting potentially millions. Second, researchers are working on safety. Anthropic's using persona vectors, kind of like personality controls, to spot and reduce unwanted traits like evil, sycophancy, that's being too agreeable, or hallucinations, just making things up. This helps vaccinate models during training against problems we've seen pop up. Finally, advancements. OpenAI released GPT-5 with built-in reasoning and a system that adapts its thinking. Very cool. They're also backing an AI-powered movie, Critters, set for 2026, made faster and cheaper with AI. And there's a new low-cost ChatGPT Go plan around $455 in some areas. So from advanced models and creative uses to urgent security risks and safety steps, AI keeps reshaping our world.
Well, that certainly was not perfect, but still informative. These news stories highlight AI's rapid evolution, delivering both groundbreaking capabilities and new security risk. Low cost plans like ChatGPT Go are expanding its reach, along with GPT-5 giving it new capabilities. We're even making AI animated films now, which is kind of exciting. I like how companies like Anthropic are tackling the darker side of AI by developing safeguards to help prevent cyber criminals from abusing AI for malicious purposes. As AI becomes more capable and accessible, the race between innovation and safeguarding against misuse is accelerating. Anyway, let's get to our featured cybersecurity stories, surprisingly, all revolving around Microsoft. First up, Microsoft now enforces MFA on Azure portal sign-ins for all tenants. Microsoft has made multi-factor authentication mandatory for all Azure portal sign-ins across every tenant. This is part of a broader push to harden security and reduce account compromise risk. Basically, MFA is now enforced by default for Azure portal logins with no opt-out. Welcome to 2025, Microsoft. It applies to all tenants, regardless of size or subscription type. The goal is essentially to reduce credential theft and unauthorized access incidents. This builds on Microsoft's Secure Future initiative to make strong authentication the norm. Some things you should keep in mind as this is happening. You want to make sure you have the proper training and support in place. It would also be a good time to update policies and processes around access and authentication. And then lastly, check your MFA methods, making sure only strong authentication methods like number matching are being used, and review conditional access policies to ensure there are no conflicts. Next up, Microsoft teams to protect against malicious URLs and dangerous file types. Microsoft is rolling out new Teams security features to block risky file types and detect malicious URLs in chats and channels. Integration with Microsoft Defender's Allow block list will also let admins block communications from specific domains. Executables and other file types will be blocked in team chats and channels, and teams will warn users about suspicious links. These features are all coming in September and really seem like they're long overdue. Again, welcome to 2025, Microsoft. You want to make sure you communicate these changes to your team's users and make them aware of the URL warnings and ensure that they know how to report suspicious activity. It would also probably be a good idea to review and update your blocked domain list in Defender, and of course, do some testing to ensure legitimate files aren't being blocked. Lastly, new Downgrade attack can bypass FIDO authentication in Microsoft Entra ID. Researchers at Proofpoint demonstrated a downgrade attack that forces Microsoft Entra ID users away from FIDO-based authentication into weaker authentication methods, enabling phishing and session hijacking. This adversary in the middle attack uses a spoofed browser user agent, something like Safari on Windows, that doesn't support FIDO, which then causes it to fall back to a less secure method like SMS. Credentials and session cookies are then captured, allowing full account takeover. So far, there hasn't been any reports of anyone actively exploiting this vulnerability, but you should consider disabling fallback authentication methods, especially for weak authentication factors like SMS. Also, remember to educate your users to think twice when their standard authentication method isn't available. After all, technical controls are only as strong as the people using them, so you always want to make sure that you have a layered defense and incorporate robust user awareness training. Let's take a break from the serious stuff and talk about something a bit more nostalgic. Our featured retro game this month is fitting for the month of October, Super Ghouls and Ghosts for the Super Nintendo. You just gotta love that music. Anyway, Super Ghouls and Ghost is a side-scrolling platform game released in 1991 by Capcom for the Super Nintendo. It's the third installment in the Ghost and Goblins series, and the first one not to be released in the arcade. You play as the knight Arthur, saving Princess Guinevere and the kingdom by battling monsters in the ghoul realm. It's been called by many the best entry in the Ghost and Goblins series, and was always known for its very high difficulty, some saying it was 16-bit at its most unforgiving. Games Radar ranked Super Ghouls and Ghosts at number 25 in their best Super NES games of all time, and IGN listed the game as number 51 in their top 100 Super NES games. I was a big fan of the original Ghost and Goblins, which I played on my trusty Commodore 64. Something about being a lone knight fighting off hordes of challenging monsters had me hooked. I remember beating the final boss only to be thrown back to the beginning to start all over again, which is a staple of these games. So I was very curious when I heard Ghouls and Ghosts was coming out for the Genesis, and you would think that would have been yet another reason for me to get a Genesis, but I think I was just happy playing Legendary Axe and Splatterhouse at the time on the TurboGrafx. 3 years later, Super Ghouls and Ghosts was released for the Super Nintendo. I thought it was just a port of the Genesis game at the time, and only realized later that it was a new game in the series. While I didn't have a Super NES, I had a friend who had one, and when I wasn't playing Super Mario World over there, Super Ghouls and Ghosts was the one I often played. The graphics and the music were some of the best on the Super Nintendo, and I loved how alive the world felt. While the game was super hard, I liked the challenge, and most of the time I was just happy to beat the first level, which I've played many times. To this day, I still play Super Ghouls and Ghosts when the opportunity presents itself, just to run through that first level one more time. Super Ghouls and Ghosts has had its fair share of ports over the years. It's been part of a few Capcom collections for the PlayStation, PlayStation 2, Xbox, PlayStation Portable. It also appeared on the Super NES Classic Edition in 2017 and got a re-release for the Game Boy Advance. It's playable on more modern hardware like the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2 as part of the Nintendo Classic service. Ghost and Goblins Resurrection was released in 2021 for the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Windows PC. It was the spiritual successor to Super Ghouls and Ghosts. It reimagines the original two titles with new mechanics and a storybook art style. I played it briefly, enjoyed it for what it was. Hopefully we'll see another entry in the series one day. That's all, folks. Thanks for listening. Join us next month. Same bat time, same bat channel. And remember, this episode of Hacking Pixels is brought to you by Actionable Security, your trusted partner in safeguarding small businesses. With decades of experience, Actionable Security offers tailored cybersecurity services such as risk assessments, email hardening, and virtual chief information security officer advisory. For more details on how we can help protect your business, visit actionablesec.com.